Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Well, we've said this before on this show that the legitimacy of the government is predicated on consent of the governed. And at some point, if you're doing things that strike people as arbitrary and are also doing damage through their capriciousness, you're going to have pushback. In East Peoria, as you mentioned last hour, Amy, the
Yeah.
city is starting a phased reopening. Non-essential businesses, including hair salons and gyms, allowed to reopen there starting this past Friday. A
I thought it was this. Okay.
second phase starting May 15 would allow bars and restaurants to open at 50% capacity. Churches, playgrounds, theaters, casinos, and some other activities also included in the phase two openings to begin May 15. The mayor saying, "Our decision is not one of defiance, rather it's one of respect for those citizens and members of our business community who we represent and who are counting on us to provide the leadership, who are counting on us to provide the leadership, trust, and confidence necessary to get East Peoria moving forward again." Huh. Interesting. And of course, Pritzker responded to the East Peoria matter at yesterday's presser, just saying, they're bad people. They're endangering
Well, they're
people's
putting
lives.
lives in danger. Yeah, and also too, if these things keep going on, like church gatherings, and we're not flattening the curve, he's going to extend the lockdown. Dan, don't you know?
If our numbers flatten and get better, and that's where we seem to be at right now, it's because people have followed the rules. And to the extent people are not following them and gathering in groups, they're going to spread the virus, and they're going to cause us to go back into a previous executive order or a more stringent lockdown than what we've had, if in fact there's a spike of cases as a result of people not following the rules.
So I see.
Yeah,
So
reckless behavior, Dan.
so people were following the rules, and it had an effect. But yet, with the new executive order, we have new rules like the mask requirement. Explain. Hmm. Sean Trendy has a good analysis of the numbers state by state at realclearpolitics.com. And as I said, state by state looks at sort of by color scheme the height of the cases in each state. He observes many interesting stories within these data, but the main takeaway should be relatively clear. No states are on anything resembling an exponential growth trajectory. Almost all states are past a peak, and most states are substantially so. This would suggest that in many states, the question really should be how to reopen while keeping hospitals from being overwhelmed again, which is what the question that the states that are reopening are actually answering. In addition to that, Nate Silver, previously his modeling suggested all the states, all 50 states were past peak. This data from Sean Trendy, he's being conservative in his interpretation, more or less suggests the same.
Yeah, and yesterday Pritzker lined out, how many hospital beds were in use April 5th compared to May 3rd. That number's gone up, but the number that has gone down a lot is ICU beds. We were at 43% April 5th. Now we're at 33, and people on ventilators was at 26%. Now it's at 22%. So
well,
that's good news.
Going back to East Peoria, as I said, municipalities are going to take it upon themselves to chart their own course, much like states are charting their own course. And Orland Park is doing the same. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by the mayor of Orland Park and a U.S. Air Force veteran, Keith Pekau. Keith, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan and Navy. Thanks for having me. Good morning.
So you and your village board passed a resolution at last night's board meeting that said what?
We really asked for three things. One was for the legislature to reopen and reconvene and address this pandemic. The second was for the governor to share the information and data that he is using in his deliberative process that supports his decision-making in the interest of transparency for all of Illinois residents. And third is for the legislature and the governor to work together to provide a reopening plan that provides guidance to the businesses, residents, and municipalities in the state of Illinois.
And you've come up with your own phases, like phase 0 includes the reopening of bike shops, bookstores, dog groomers. And then what is phase 1?
So phase 1 would be most things would reopen except for gyms So you see your retail reopen, your restaurants reopen at 50% capacity. There's a whole list of different things that would open. And actually, we adjusted that yesterday as well. We took out the phase zero because the governor opened most of the things that we had in phase zero, at least partially opened those items. And we're prepared with this plan whenever we're allowed to open. We're prepared to do it. We have received no guidance from the state. And in my mind, you have to have a plan. And this plan was actually put together and finished the Thursday that he announced he was extending the stay-at-home order. But at that point, we had no guidance, and we were ready in a week to reopen as far as we knew. So businesses need to have an idea of what your plans are. Residents need to have an idea. Businesses need to know what the guidance is for what they're supposed to do in advance. And they had nothing. So we felt like we had to take it upon ourselves to create that plan.
It's interesting. I know in the write-up you say your plan included information from CDC, from the American Enterprise Institute, to Scott Gottlieb's group, the former FDA commissioner, the White House, country opening plans, and so forth. It actually somewhat closely mirrors the Back on Track Indiana plan, where a lot of Southwest suburban residents now live in Indiana. And Indiana's goes in 5 stages. They're past stage 0. They're on to stage 2, effective yesterday, which is, manufacturing, religious services at fully open with social distancing, and you get, partial openings with some of the other categories. A couple of weeks from now, stage 3, stage 4, all the way to, complete pre-pandemic status by July 4th weekend. So, I mean, the tiering of this is not inconsistent with what you see actual other states doing. So that's, some evidence that you're not just that you're looking around and relying on best practices, what you see around you.
We did a lot of research. Looked at the White House plan was the first guidance, and then, as you mentioned, the CDC, the Enterprise Institute. Countries are doing this, states are doing this. Why wouldn't we learn from other places? And we also engaged our local health leaders. We engaged our businesses. You'll see in the appendix, Simon Properties had a plan. I would have never thought of all the things that they have come up with, because ultimately businesses are going to have to make their employees feel safe to come back to work, and their customers feel safe to come engage with them at their place of business. So it really is incumbent upon the businesses to make people feel comfortable, and it's incumbent on the customers to feel comfortable. So at the end of the day, the marketplace is going to figure this out. And if you notice at the very top of the plan, we indicated that this is guidance, because we don't think we have the constitutional authority to enforce any of this. But there is some guidance that needs to be given. And in our estimation, this was the best guidance we could give businesses to try to help customers feel comfortable and keep people safe.
So constitutional authority to enforce any of this. So that means Pritzker's order plus your reopening guidelines. So this is this a situation, Orland Park, where it's here are the guidelines, do as you see fit?
So for us, when our rolling out our plan, in our opinion, that it would be, this is guidance. Businesses need to do what they think is comfortable. Let's be realistic. I don't think anyone's piling into a movie theater tomorrow. So ultimately, the businesses have to make customers feel comfortable. At the same time, the legal opinion that we have suggests that Governor Pritzker's orders are probably not enforceable by us. So, right. So that's the position we're taking. We recommend following the CDC's guidelines. Businesses clearly have the ability to require masks to come into their place of business, but ultimately it's on the people and the businesses. And from what we've seen, we really haven't had any issues. People have been following the suggested guidelines.
And you're giving the residents of Orland Park a choice, because they can stay home if they don't want to. But what is it like in Orland Park? How many cases do you have, and have there been any COVID-19 deaths that you know of?
There have been 13 deaths, and the last I checked, which was Sunday, I believe that at least 12 of those were tied to nursing homes. There's about 232 cases. What's interesting is that we have a Costco, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, Mariano's, Trader Joe's, a couple of Jewels. With all of those, quote, essential businesses that are open, we're probably seeing over 20,000 people a day going through those stores. We have one case since May 20th that is tied to those stores. If those stores can operate that way, why can't our other retail operate as well, as provided they do so and they take some of the precautions that these stores have taken?
So Chief McCarthy and the men and women in blue, they're not going to be breaking up any church services or funerals or sandwich shops. No, that's not happening in Orland Park.
We have not been sending our police out to break these things up. If we get, I think we get tons of calls, of course. And to my knowledge, there's one group there was a big group at a park, and our police just asked them to spread out, and they did. And that was weeks ago. So we really haven't had any issues.
What about the wearing of masks?
Wearing masks again, from a legal perspective, we don't think that we can enforce that. We recommend that people do it, and businesses certainly have the right to stop someone from coming in if they don't have one. So if that's the case, we would obviously respond if someone is refusing and demanding to go in. That would obviously be an issue. Additionally, if someone's not wearing one and intentionally coughing or sneezing or trying to endanger somebody's health, that would be the other time that we would respond. But for the most part, we're asking people to comply.
What are you hearing from other mayors in the region?
Oh, yeah.
So I speak to a couple of mayors regularly, and they generally agree. But obviously, we're a much bigger town than they are, and so they've been trying as well. I sent a letter to the governor April 10th, requesting the Phase 0 opening, which is what most of that was included in the May 1st opening. And 4 other mayors signed on to that as well. So I think mayors in general are feeling like they would like to see us reopen. At the end of the day, this is a problem to be solved. It's not an either-or proposition. I keep hearing about how this is lives versus livelihoods. It's what WGN asked me. It's wealth versus health. Those are disingenuous arguments. It's not an either-or proposition. We can do both. We can keep people safe and reopen. We're smart enough. We have a lot of smart people. We have a lot of experience in other countries and other states. Let's use some of that experience and start opening some things up and getting our economy back on track. But let's do it safely.
And that resolution that passed last night, was that unanimous?
It was not unanimous. It was 5-1.
But so you have overwhelming support on the board too. So which I know has been a contentious board from time to time. So that has to say something about where the popular opinion is.
I think generally speaking, the board's been aligned on most things here, with the exception of one person. So, the board's been supportive. The staff has been supportive. Overall, Orland Park's been great. The people have been great. We haven't had to do much because the people have really, they recognize that this. There's no question the virus is dangerous, particularly for people who are over 60 or have had previous conditions that make them less safe. So I think people recognize that. They're trying to be conscientious of others, and that we're fortunate here in Orland that's how the people generally behave.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you and the mayor of East Peoria have had enough and aren't impressed with Governor Pritzker's leadership or lack of leadership.
Well, the one that really bothers me is the legislature. The governor is the chief executive, and in absence of a legislature, he's going to make whatever decisions he makes. I don't agree with a lot of them, but at the end of the day, the legislature needs to come in and do their job. They're the checks and balances, and they need to deliberate and debate this, and they're not doing their jobs. I guess you could say they're leading by example, because they're state employees that aren't getting paid and they're not going to work, and there's a lot of those that they've given the time off.
The absent legislature. We've had that for some time. Keith Pekau, mayor of Orland Park, also a U.S. Air Force veteran. Keith, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you both for having me.
Take care.
Thanks, and thanks for being brave and smart. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Famous conservative quotes presented by Automated Systems.
Here's a Churchill quote to improve your outlook. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Wise words to live by, indeed.
Manufacturing companies, I encourage you to call my friend Laz Kulchar from Automated Systems. Automated Systems is a software and systems integration company that specializes in companies that are required to meet FDA compliance requirements. Automated Systems will create a custom solution for your business that will make your production lines, facilities, and plants run more efficiently. Imagine less downtime, more speed, and fewer rejects. From Fortune 500 to startup, ASI delivers solutions for your toughest automation challenges. For information, I encourage you to talk to Laz at Automated Systems. Call 844-HIRE-ASI or visit hireasi.com. That's 844-HIRE-ASI, 844-HIRE-ASI, or online at hireasi.com.
Remember, oftentimes the best defense our body has against getting sick is having that strong, healthy immune system, and that's why I take Balance of Nature to keep my immune system strong. If you're anxious, that doesn't help your immune system. So be proactive, do something healthy, something good for yourself, and get yourself some Balance of Nature. Why? Well, you're not eating enough fruits and veggies on your own, and that's where Balance of Nature comes in. It's 6 capsules a day, that's it. You're getting 10 servings of 31 different fruits and veggies. And this is the time to be proactive and take charge of your health. I give it to Peyton and Eli, I give it to my mother.